President Salovey, Provost Pollock, Dean Cooley, Dean Gindler, Secretary Goff-Cruz, Chaplain Kugler, residential college leaders, honored guests, and lest we forget, women and men of the class of 2020, good morning and welcome. I want to extend my welcome to the parents and grandparents, siblings, aunts and uncles who are with us today. As I welcome you, I also want to acknowledge your hard work and sacrifices. Without you, those of us on stage and our colleagues throughout the campus, the librarians, dining hall workers, professors, custodians, groundskeepers, coaches, lecturers, religious leaders, tutors, administrative assistants, without you, we would not have the honor of guiding these young adults, our newest Yalees, through their undergraduate years. Thank you for trusting us with this duty. As for you, class of 2020, I would like to start things off by giving you your first homework assignment. What I want you to do today is to take a quiet moment to acknowledge your privileges and your blessings, and be sure to thank someone who was not here for his or her commitment to your success. You have all been blessed numerous times over with remarkable abilities. You might excel at interpreting, or running, or coding. You might have a gift to conjugate or titrate or swim. Maybe you sing or debate. I'm also guessing that more than a few of you are level 5 or higher in Pokemon Go and have already discovered that this very place where you're sitting, this august hall, is a massive Pokemon gym. That aside, these blessings brought you here, but only in part. What you also have to realize is how others, beyond your family, had a role in your success. I'm sure that with little effort, you can all make a long list of people who deserve some recognition and appreciation. Neighbors, best friends, calculus teachers, guidance counselors, cafeteria workers, chess club instructors, bosses, yearbook advisors, principals. On this special day that is all about you, do the proper and generous thing and make someone else's day special by thanking them in writing. As you count and share your blessings, reflect for a moment on who you are and how far you have traveled to get here. You hail from small towns and remote places and high rises in megacities. You have spent endless hours on the family farm, helped your parents in the family restaurant, and volunteered at social service agencies trying to help families in dire straits. You are from public schools mostly, parochial schools and private schools. You're from every state in the United States and from 50 other countries. You're from Potomac, Scarsdale, Cape Town, Fayetteville, Coral Gables, Waban, Singapore, Carmel, Guilford, Brantford, New Haven, and too many other places to mention. You have come from everywhere, and you bring with you your own stories. But now you are here. What are you supposed to do now, you might be asking yourself. Who are you to become? Ultimately, you're the only ones who are going to be able to answer these questions, but you're also going to have a lot of help along the way from the people you are going to meet over the next 4 years, including me. Let me start by telling you a story that speaks to this moment. A few years ago, my family loaded the car and drove up to Maine. We were taking our daughter to her first sleepaway camp and figured we would turn the first part of our trip into a vacation. My wife booked a hotel for us in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, a beautiful coastal town known for its 4th of July fireworks. We planned to get there early so that we could see them, then continue on our way the next day. After we checked into the hotel, we set out on foot and soon found ourselves at Strawberry Bank Museum, a 10-acre site that recounts over 300 years of American history. At Strawberry Bank, visitors stroll around painstakingly recreated gardens and houses and get to speak to costumed role players. As a historian of the United States who specializes in the African American experience, these kinds of places usually give me pause as they tend toward oversimplified narratives of this nation's rich and complex past. Thankfully, and to its credit, Strawberry Bank did not hide from the challenges of its particular past. But this is not actually why I share the story. I mentioned Strawberry Bank because, as fate would have it, I had come on a day when the museum was hosting a naturalization ceremony. On that day, the 4th of July, the anniversary of this country's Declaration of Independence, a few hundred people from around the world, from all different life circumstances, had gathered on that site to present the requisite paperwork, to declare their allegiance to this country, and to become legal citizens. The cumulative and completely unexpected significance of this moment caught me off guard, and when the magistrate declared en masse that the assembled were now citizens, tears rolled down my cheeks. Sure, my emotions were fueled by romantic patriotism. A naturalization ceremony on July 4th at a living history museum that tells an uplifting story of a colonial past, I mean, really. But I was mainly moved by the overarching narrative. So many strangers had come to this place, the United States, New Hampshire, Portsmouth, Strawberry Bank. They had come to this place believing in the possibilities afforded by full citizenship. They made a collective leap of faith that they would find through citizenship a place to realize their ambitions. For some, this meant access to certain jobs. For others, this meant uniting a family. For still others, this meant finding refuge. All, I am confident, believed that they were ready to make substantive contributions to their new community. Now, today, I'm looking out at you, strangers who have come to this place, believing in the possibility afforded by the full citizenship that was bestowed on you last night when you signed your registration forms. I will not claim to know all of your histories before this moment, but I do know that you are here, and I believe that you are here because you have some sort of vision of what possibilities will accrue to you through your relationship to Yale. That is this day. In 4 or 5 years, you will be receiving a diploma from this institution. When the president confers the degrees upon you, he will also admit you to the rights and responsibilities that are associated with being a member of the Yale alumni community. But why wait until that moment to talk about your responsibilities as a Yale citizen? Given that we are in the final months of a tendentious presidential campaign, and given the local, national, and global events that are testing us to our core, I feel it important to talk about your responsibilities as citizens of this community at the moment of your becoming. I want specifically to talk about your responsibilities to each other. I return to who you are. You have come from everywhere, and until yesterday, most of you were strangers to one another. But you are Yaleys now. You are now part of a tradition that reaches back over 3 centuries. But this is a tradition that is also about change. For example, if you were to consider the entering Yale class from 75 years ago, you would learn that 25% of the class came from 5 prep schools, and within that group, almost half from Phillips Academy. Is that a Phillips alum I'm hearing out there? Most undergraduates came from 5 states, the furthest away being Ohio. And when I say most, I mean this literally. Imagine the total number of students from the rest of the country, 32. African American students were an extreme rarity in that general era. In fact, there were none in that class. There was, however, 1 Filipino. Every undergraduate, of course, was male. The Yale to which you belong, the one that I hope you have already started to call your own, looks different in the most obvious ways. Yours is a more complex Yale, and it is one that presents you with challenges that your predecessors could not then have imagined. This complexity, however, does not free you from a responsibility to discover. It is our expectation, in fact, that you will embrace the challenge of so much difference. Writing on what he called the encountered other, literary critic Derek Attridge tells us that when we meet a stranger, the demand for justice requires that we recognize a fundamental humanity in that stranger. Attridge argues that if we meet that demand and respond to the other person through openness, we will ourselves change and grow. It is important to realize that the stakes of these exchanges are high. At their best, they represent, as Attridge tells us, opportunities for new ways of seeing the world. But these exchanges are also filled with risk. Venturing into new spaces and encountering the unknown means exposing yourself to new ideas and new ways of communicating. The words we use, the way we use them, the way we hear them, every action is thick with potential. As you take up and explore your own new citizenship of this place, consider the risks that generations have taken over time as they ventured toward a new place and either literally or figuratively learn to speak a new language. I will not claim to know the histories of those people who gathered on that 4th of July a few years ago to become citizens, but I know they took risks to get to Strawberry Bank. You too have taken risks. And now that you are here, we hope that you will continue to do so by engaging the differences all around you. Journey into uncertainty and meet with excitement and passion all that confounds you, angers you, challenges you, and enthralls you. Come to these moments with integrity and honesty, and most of all, dare to listen to what you hear. I said earlier that the stakes are high. I believe this to be the case in large measure because we need each other to make this whole thing work. We are, as Gwendolyn Brooks writes, we are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond. Judge Learned Hand wrote that a college may gather together men of a common tradition, or it may put its faith in learning. Members of the class of 2020, you are our newest Yale citizens, and you come from many different traditions. You are on the verge of beginning an education unlike any that you have had before. It will happen in the classrooms, to be sure, but it will also happen with every encounter you have, with every stranger you meet, and with every leap of faith you take in which you declare this place has something for you and that you have something for this place. This is what you will find as you enter Yale and as you lay claim to your status as citizen. You are at the threshold now, poised. I, for one, am eager to discover what you will find. Dana Gioia, poet laureate of California, writes about this moment, this cusp, in his poem, Entrance. I leave you with his words. Whoever you are, step out of doors tonight, out of the room that lets you feel secure. Infinity is open to your sight, whoever you are. With eyes that have forgotten how to see, from viewing things already too well known, lift up into the dark a huge black tree and put it in the heavens, tall, alone. And you have made the world and all you see. It ripens like the words still in your mouth, and when at last you comprehend its truth, then close your eyes and gently set it free. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome. Welcome to my colleagues here on stage, to the family members who've joined us today, and especially to the Yale class of 2020. 2020 is a term that inevitably brings to mind perfect vision, perfect eyesight. And now that all of you are wearing 2020 as your class label in Yale College, I'm confident that your intuition and your mental acuity will develop here to an equivalent level of strength. The admissions office assures me that everything possible has been done to guarantee this outcome. Nonetheless, I'd like to reflect on your first day of school about what might impede your insight and what might advance it in the course of your education here. For many years, I taught introductory psychology to a large number of freshmen. In the part of that course devoted to social psychology, I would ask my students to consider what we know about helping others in various kinds of social situations. Specifically, why is it that we offer assistance or fail to offer assistance in emergencies? I would begin with the tragic and well-known case of Kitty Genovese, a 29-year-old woman who lived in Kew Gardens, Queens, and was murdered there in 1964. Her case received enormous attention and commentary, and you have probably heard some version of her story. As reported in the New York Times, 38 individuals watched the murder from their apartment windows, but only one called the police, and by then it was too late. Over the years, I've described this shocking incident many times. So have other social psychologists teaching similar courses, and so did the social scientists who sought to explain how witnesses could exhibit such callous indifference to a horrific crime taking place before their eyes. Here's the trouble. The standard account of the Kitty Genovese case is wrong in some of its crucial details. Kitty's brother, Bill Genovese, produced a film last year, maybe some of you have seen it, called The Witness. In it, he documents that some bystanders were not indifferent. One witness shouted out the window at the attacker. Another witness held Kitty in her arms as she died. And several called the police during the attack. So what does it mean that social scientists have been retelling an incorrect version of this story for over 50 years as a paradigmatic example of extreme bystander indifference? Well, among other things, it means that inadvertently we have been perpetuating what might rightly be called a false narrative, a version of events that, while partly true, has been shaped, in this case by a newspaper report, to elicit strong negative emotions like anger, like fear, like disgust. As an investigator of human emotions, that's my area in psychology, I know that even the most negative feelings can be important to our survival. Anger effectively signals that a goal is being blocked. Fear motivates caution and preparation. Disgust moves us away from things that can make us ill. However, sometimes our friends, family members, politicians, advertisers, pundits, and others look to manipulate our emotions for their own purposes. Anger, fear, and disgust can be highly effective ways to drive eyeballs to websites, consumers to products, or voters to the polls. My sense is that we are bombarded daily by false narratives of various kinds, and that they're doing a great deal of damage. In a national election season, you don't need to look very hard to find them. It's not my purpose today to mock the biggest whoppers or award Pinocchios for the biggest distortions. Rather, I'm only hoping to persuade you that advocates on any side of a question can be tempted to exaggerate or distort or neglect crucial facts in ways that serve primarily to fuel your anger, your fear, or your disgust. If I'm correct, then an important aspect of your education here will be learning how to recognize and address these kinds of accounts. In the course of that, you should pay especially close attention to the narratives that seem to align best with your own beliefs. To the extent you hold strong political or cultural or religious or economic beliefs, any beliefs, you will simply be like all the rest of us if you gravitate toward explanations that seem to provide confirmation for those beliefs or to demonize those who hold different ones. All of us are strongly predisposed to accept accounts that align with the opinions we already hold, and to ignore or dismiss those that do not. Social media, the blogosphere, and the political process are increasingly drenched with such narratives, inflaming our negative emotions and presenting real barriers to reasoned investigation, productive exchanges between differing views, and the search for common ground on the most challenging problems facing our global societies. So, you are now embarking on an ambitious and hopeful effort to understand the world, your place in it, and what you can contribute to forward progress. How can you address the seductive power of false narratives, especially in a time when grave mistrust on many sides seems to be fueling ever more of them? It will not surprise you that I'm highly aware of false narratives circulating about students like yourselves and about higher education in general. I have a thick shelf of contemporary books in my office assuring me that students at elite universities are merely excellent sheep, that a liberal arts degree is a ticket to unemployment, that truly inspired and courageous learners drop out of college to found tech companies, that millennials cannot make decisions without consulting their parents, that college professors have uniform political views, that students these days are fragile hothouse flowers, that it is not possible to achieve an inclusive campus culture without giving up on free speech, and that our colleges and universities are cut off from reality. In response, I want to claim that your Yale education will not only enlarge your imagination, advance your knowledge, and propel your career, but also that it will be absolutely critical to your capacity for playing a positive leadership role in these increasingly polarized and fractious times. In particular, you're about to be taught by outstanding teachers and mentors whose lives and careers constitute a powerful witness for the value of a disciplined, reasoned, and careful search for light and truth. What unites our faculty, from engineering to economics to English to environmental studies, is a stubborn skepticism about narratives that oversimplify issues, that inflame the emotions, that misdirect the mind. No one is free of biases, of course, but as a community of scholars, we subscribe to the ideal of judicious, searching inquiry in the service of reasoned discourse about the matters we investigate and care about the most. We would be lost as academics without this ideal, and our global societies would be lost if universities stopped being places defined by this ideal. I could supply you with a long list of the Yale faculty who have spent decades of their lives in laboratories, in archives, in libraries, and in field settings, collecting evidence to challenge some received notion, some distorted narrative, or some common wisdom that turned out to be highly questionable. Here are some examples. Many people assume that our legal system was built entirely on a secular tradition. But Yale's professor of medieval history, Anders Winroth, counters the false narrative that contemporary legal reasoning is a radical departure from medieval canon law by showing that in many ways it's rooted in it. Important cosmologies of the past depended on the assumption that the planet Earth is unique in the universe. Astronomy professor Deborah Fisher has discovered many worlds called exoplanets orbiting around suns in solar systems spread throughout the galaxy. Medical researchers assumed for many years that gender has little to do with the prevalence and course of most illnesses, and that the findings from studies with men automatically generalize to women. Carolyn Missouri, the director of the Women's Health Research Center at Yale, has been investigating critical differences that gender makes in a wide range of biological systems and translates those findings into new health practices. A few more. Most classically trained economists have modeled human decisions as the result of careful calculations of costs and benefits. Nobel Prize winner Robert Shiller has emerged at the forefront of those who challenge the idea of rational individuals and markets, forcing major revisions to the theory of human behavior on which his field, economics, is based. When I was a graduate student in psychology, the dominant narrative held that humans learn virtually everything from experience. But psychology professor Karen Wynn has been teaching us that human infants have surprising innate capacities. 5-month-olds appear able to make rudimentary arithmetic calculations. And psychology professor Laurie Santos, the new head of Silliman College, has been showing us that monkeys, too, seem pre-wired for such complex states as resentment, envy, and cognitive dissonance. I'll close my list of examples by referencing Professor of African American Studies, Hazel Carby. Her first book, called Reconstructing Womanhood, was an exceptional exploration of the ways in which 19th century Black women writers in America confronted and transformed the domestic and literary ideals of womanhood in white society. Professor Carby wrote a telling remark in her foreword to a book called Silencing the Past, highlighting the power of challenging false or incomplete narratives about the marginalized. This is her quote: "We learn how scanty evidence can be repositioned to generate new narratives, how silences can be made to speak for themselves." People naturally construct narratives to make sense of their world. I've been concerned to point out that in times of great stress, false narratives may dominate the public mind and public discourse, inflaming negative emotions and fanning discord. In our times especially, a wide array of instantaneous transmissions amplify such narratives. And as a result, we sometimes find that anger and fear and disgust can blind us to the complexity of the world and the responsibility to seek deeper understandings of important issues. One point of your Yale education, then, is for you to become a more careful and critical thinker, to learn the difficult, painstaking skills you will need in order to evaluate evidence, to deliberate more broadly and more carefully, and to arrive at your own conclusions. More particularly, Yale is a place for you to learn how and why to gravitate toward people who view things differently than you do, who will test your most strongly held assumptions. It is also a place to learn why it takes extraordinary discipline, courage, and persistence, often over a lifetime, to construct new foundations for tackling the most intractable and challenging questions of our time. You've come to a place where civil disagreements and deep rethinking are the heart and soul of the enterprise, where we prize exceptional diversity of views alongside the greatest possible freedom of expression. So I trust that you will begin immediately to seek out what is best about this place, the faculty and staff and peers who will both inspire you and prepare you to become the investigators, the visionaries, and the leaders the world so sorely needs. None of us here can hope for a better world, or even for a more inclusive and exhilarating learning community at Yale, unless we succeed at this mission. You are, in fact, what gives us hope. You are, in fact, why we became educators. You are why we are here. Welcome to Yale.
My beloved Yale family, as we ready ourselves to step out onto new ground in this daunting yet inspiring liminal space of the unknown next, we begin a poignant turn of goodbyes and hellos that invite laughter, tears, challenge, choice, discovery, and pride. Let us go forth with deep trust in certain knowledge that every one of us is welcome here, that love surrounds us, that beauty can surprise us, and that light and truth awaits us. On this day and each day forward, may all that is holy shine upon us and tenderly bless our every breath. May we go in shalom, in shanti. May we go in peace. Let us begin.